So this session is about streaming. If you want to go faster, it's a bit of play of words. And I know. So my name is Harry Tepper, and I'm from YFE. And today we have speakers of Suja from Otera, you want to wave? Darren from ITV. Paul from Cartoon Studios. And Laura from Artman Animation. So before we start talking to the panelists, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the AVOD ecosystem and all that. It's just hopefully I can finish it up in 10 minutes, so there's more pressure on the panelists to talk more. So what is AVOD? I think a lot of people hear about AVOD and all that, but they don't really understand what is AVOD. Or usually what we call it advertising-based video on demand. It's basically a model where viewers can access video content for free with no subscription. AVOD platforms usually generate their revenue by displaying ads before, during, or after the content targeted to a specific demographic and interest of the viewers. This ad-supported approach enables viewers to enjoy a wider range of video content at no cost, while advertisers are able to reach a larger audience and monetizing this content through advertising revenue. So why is this growth interesting? Let me pop it out. I think one thing for sure, the expansion of digital consumption, the reason why there is this huge consumption is because more and more people are, gaining access to the internet, digital platforms, and the potential audience for AVOD expand due to this, right? The shift in consumer behavior. I mean, traditional TV viewership, in general for the last few years or a decade or so has been on a decline. Increasingly, they're turning into to streaming services for the entertainment, and AVOD is a brilliant platform because it's free, it's low-cost alternative to a subscription-based model. And for advertisers, it's appealing because they are able to really focus on the right targets for their ads, rather than, if you go to traditional TV, it's more like depending on the time slot, depending on the type of content, you put it in between the breaks, you never know whether you're reaching the same target audience. Then I think the interesting thing about AVOD, there's a diverse selection of content. It offers a wider range of content, including videos, movies, TV shows, user-generated content, and of course, original programming. And I think the most important thing for all of us down here is monetization, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we need to do. We need to find ways to monetize our content. And I think AVOD platform does provide content producers, creators with an opportunity to monetize their content through ad revenue sharing models. So these are some of the current, partnership models that's out there with AVOD platforms. Usually it's a 50-50 rev share. Fast channels of fast platforms like Samsung TV Plus and LG, depending on how early you go in or how late you go into the market, it's usually starts at 70 to 30, 70 to you and 30 to them. But now I heard like in certain markets like UK, I think it's about 50-50. So, and I think YouTube usually is about the views once you reach a certain target in your videos. And it's all about the CPM. Do you guys know what CPM means? Yeah, so should I just move then? So it means cost per thousand. It's a metric to use in advertising to measure the cost of reach every 1,000 impressions and all that. CPMs represent the price an advertiser will pay for 1,000 impressions, and it's commonly pricing model CPM, which allows advertisers to effectively compare and sets the cost efficiently across different campaigns. So the average CPM outside the US, I think the US is really quite high these days. In Canada, UK, and Australia, it's about 10 to 15 pounds, whereas India is about 30 pence. But then again, India is such a huge market. If you have those eyeballs at 30 pence, it's still quite a significant amount of money. So the CPM varies quite a lot, depending on, let me see. It depends on your channel viewership, your target demo. So obviously, if it's for general entertainment or adults, you have a higher CPM compared to kids content. You have a lower CPM, the quality of the content, the ad formats, the advertisers' demand, territories, like I said before, like UK, for example, will have higher CPM compared to other regions like Latin America or India, for example. The content genre, meaning that if it's kids content versus like movies, there might be a variation in terms of CPM. And of course, the period of the year, like peak periods are normally, I guess, October, November, December. Then it plateaus a bit. Then I think around March, April, that's when you have a low CPM. So right now, the global AVOD revenue in 2022 is about 41 billion. So that's quite a lot. And it is predicted, right, by 2028, it's going to be about 91 million, the whole global ad revenue. So that's almost like more than double in terms of revenue in just a couple of years, in like 6 years. So this is basically the breakdown on the global AVOD revenue. And what you will see is that 40% of the revenue, actually 41% of the revenue will actually come from the US, adding about 20 billion US dollars from now right up to 2028. And by 2028, 9 platforms will generate AVOD revenues of exceeding about 3 billion, including 5 global players, 3 from the US and 1 from China. And you can see Tencent is the one. This is interesting because, you know, like we talk about so much clutter and all that in Europe and all that, but this is just the whole entire ecosystem in the US itself. So you have TVs everywhere, which is basically, you know, apps buy the channels or the pay TV channels or the free-to-air channels. Then you have the OTT guys, the ad-supported guys like Amoeba, Crackle, TED, and all that. So that's where all the AVOD guys do sit on. Then you have the internet streamers like Amazon, Fire Stick, Chromecast, Roku. Then you have the authenticated ad-supported. Then, you know, not forgetting, you have the standalone OTT aggregator. So to support all this ecosystem, you need to have the ad sales guys. So these are some of the top ad sales networks that does programmatic and direct sales in the US. So it's quite significant. So, you know, that's not all. If you know, I'm sure you have been hearing a lot of the SVOD players are now coming into the ad-supported segment, and you know they're creating this new, I guess, type of segment, which is ad-supported SVOD. So you still have to pay a subscription, but it's lower than full subscription. So you know about Netflix, Discovery, in Disney, Paramount, Maxis, Warner. Then in recent months or recent weeks, we have heard that Prime Videos is also coming into this space. These are some of the kids apps in the US that are basically the key, apps that kids or parents go to watch free kids content. So of course YouTube is there, YouTube Kids is there, Kadoodle TV, Toon Goggles, Cartoon Channel, Amoeba, Happy Kids, you know, Catch Up. So there's quite a lot. But when you look at Europe, there's less of the international guys, but please bear in mind, I did not include all the local level AVOD players or the regional level AVOD players. It's just too many. So there's a new kid in town. I'm sure you've been hearing this buzz about fast channels and all that, and I'm sure some of you might know what is fast and all that. So I thought I should just give you a quick rundown. So fast channels, which stands for free ad-supported TV, are streaming channels. They provide free content to viewers supported by advertisers. These channels are available on streaming platforms and offer a wide range of programming, including TV, movies, TVs, news, sports, and more. to me, I think it's basically free to air on devices. I mean, we come full circle. We used to watch linear channel, free to air, went to pay, and went to streaming and all that, AVOD, SVOD, sorry, and now we have FAST, and it's basically free to air with ads supported. So why FAST is fast in that sense? I think FAST channel platform are experiencing a really rapid adoption. This is due to the convenience, the value, and leading to a significant increase of user numbers. These platforms are continuously expanding their content library with a diverse range of entertainment options. By forming partners with distribution companies, studios, and of course broadcasters, they are able to create different type of channels in FAST. And why are broadcasters, studios, distribution companies, or even streamers are getting into this bandwagon? I think it's quite simple. The AVOD revenue and the FAST revenue is generating really great numbers, especially in the US, right? And it also helps to bring your product to a new audience that might not be watching you on your platform or on your channel. So as you can see, this is a quick snapshot of the rise of all the FAST platform. It started with in 2014 with Pluto, and I think we all know that Viacom bought Pluto, and by 2020, the rise of more platforms is almost more than double, and this is in 2021. So right now, I think in the US, there are more than what is highlighted down here. So obviously, the traditional TV genres will be in the fast space. And I think the reason why these traditional channels, such as cable or satellite, they put their channels on fast because it's very simple, because it allows viewers to access their favorite traditional content without the need for traditional pay subscription. They help to retain existing viewers and transit them into a streaming environment, and it enhances their audience engagements and loyalty. But it's not just the traditional players that are going to fast. There is this growing number of niche channels or single IP channels that's out there, and especially in the US, what you can see, there's this massive amount of, I guess, traditionally in that sense that you wouldn't expect them to be on your channel, but now because of FAST, there's a trend of viewers watching channels specific to their interests. So if I'm not wrong, in the US, there's a channel specifically just for barbecue. So everything about barbecues, you can 24 hours, how to do a ribeye rib or something like that. Then on the flip side, you have Beauty and the Geek, all the seasons of Beauty and the Geek. So that's interesting. It basically hones you down to a specific genre that you love or title that you love, and you can just watch it every day, 7 days a week. So the overall presence of channels and niche channels on FAST platforms serves to enhance content diversity, engage existing viewers, attract new viewers actually, and audience, and generate revenue. So this is like a quick snapshot in the US, FAST channels for kids. As you can see, you have niche channels like Ping Fong Baby Shark that's up there, Ryan and Friends. Then you also have a general entertainment kids channel, which is like Cartoon Channel, and I think Toon Goggles is there. So it's quite interesting, where you have the niche channels and kids channel with all the different type of programs sitting in the fast space, and there's a piece of pie for everyone. So the current revenue for FAST, let me see, right now is about 6.3 billion globally, but by 2028 it will be around 13 billion. I think US obviously is expected to generate about 80% of the revenue, global revenue. UK, Canada, Australia are all right now experiencing major spikes in FAST, leading to the rapid expansion in these territories in the next 4 years. I can vouch for that because I'm trying to close the deal on the FAST platform in the UK. So I know what's the CPM. If you want to know, let me, come to me, I'll tell you what it is. And though the US will continue to dominate the market, 1.6 revenue opportunity will emerge from FAST channels outside of the US by 2027. I said UK, Canada, Australia, Germany, Brazil, Italy, Mexico, France, Spain, Sweden are the top 10 outside of the UK that will, have those style of revenue. So this is basically a quick graph, of how revenue is being accelerating from 2019 right up to where it will be in 2028. It's quite interesting how in 2019 it's less than 0.3 billion, and by 2028, it's 13 billion. So it's quite massive. So I would advise you guys go for it. So quick summary. Overall, AVOD and FAST channels has transformed the streaming landscape by providing viewers with accessible free content options while being supported by ad revenue. The barrier to entry has significantly been decreased, especially in the FAST space, particularly for IP owners with multiple seasons. And in recent months, we have witnessed a launch of numerous pay TV platforms offering FAST services, including FAST channels including FAST channels in their future plans. I think very good example. Virgin Media just announced that they will carry all the Pluto channels on their platform. Yeah, I think that's it. So now I will basically send it over to Darren. He's going to give his 5 minutes intro about ITVX.
Yeah. Before I start, can I just say I'm glad we're not oversaturated over here like in the US. Can you imagine, as a parent, trying to navigate all of that? Just quickly to say, so hopefully some of you are aware of ITVX. We launched it in December last year. And basically, what we found out was there was huge engagement outside in the non-kid side of it. But then we had the World Cup, we had Christmas, and then we discovered, data-driven, that there was a lot of engagement from kids. So going into Kids Screen, senior management just said, great, we want you to find 600 hours of kids content and 30 to 40 hours, and don't tell anyone.
You told me.
Yes. So I was trying to take a show off him. So that, and obviously I appreciate it's been a tough year in the industry all around, but the team was expanded, the remit was expanded, and I mean, I knew around the plans around CITV, but there was a lot of excitement in terms of ITVX Kids, which we couldn't talk about. So in the sort of the last few months, we've been working quite hard. I'm starting with the FAST channels. So the announcement is the rollout has started on Connected TV and Sky, but from the 20th of July, you can check all of this out. We're rolling out ITVX Kids. We're launching 2 FAST channels on ITVX. Just to say, in terms of the user experience you get when you go onto ITVX and you watch all our dramas and all our comedies, we are replicating that on the kids pages, and I will show you in a second. At the moment, the kids page, we launched with just an A to Z, which was very basic, and I did get the feedback. Thank you. So we've been working incredibly hard, and I will take you through all of that in a second. So the 2 FAST channels we're starting with is a mixed IP FAST channel, which is on my left, and a Lego Universe FAST channel, which I hope Lego will be very pleased about. Tom, I know you're in the audience. And it just speaks for itself, really. I don't want to take it through. I mean, on the left is some of our biggest shows, and a mixture of new content in there as well. One thing to mention about CITV and what we were doing, and the shackles are off a bit because CITV was boy skewed, it was comedy driven, And what we're trying to do with ITVX Kids is just target all audiences, both preschool and 6 to 12, and girls and boys as well. So there are some titles in here, which are girl skewed. So Tara Duncan, which we picked up, and Fairy Teens from the makers of Marsha and the Bear. I can answer that if you want.
Operator.
Just so a general overview of ITVX Kids. As I said, it's both preschool and 6 to 12. There will be a lot of curated rails for kids, including we will have a signed kids rail, which is really, really exciting. We're working with Signpost, which is an internal ITV department. So in terms of inclusion and accessibility for kids, it's a huge priority for us. I'm not going to go through every bullet point. We picked up over 600 hours of kids content since Kidscreen, and we're still going. The plan is to launch a new show every week. So there is investment. I've talked about sort of the difference between CITV's remit and ITVX in terms of it being a lot more broader now. We've picked up a raft of kids' movies, game shows, live action, etc., just to add to the mix. So I will just talk you through this. So this is ITVX Kids as it is. We've kept a few of the shows back until launch. So just going through the rail, this is our hero page. As when you go in, it's just plays on its own, and it will have our biggest shows of the week that we want to put in there. And then this is our top picks rail, which has more Lego, Lloyd of the Flies from Art, which we did with Aardman, and Overlord and the Underwoods, which is an acquisition. And then you'll continue to watch. And then we have an animation rail at the moment. In terms of the names of the rails, they are curated, so it's not automated. There is a human level to it that we are taking to this, and each theme will be changed when needed each week. So Action Time is our live action rail, and we will add more titles to it to each rail as we go. And then again, I don't just added rail, and with Bob the Builder, which is doing incredibly well for us. Separately to the Lego channel, there is a Lego rail at the moment, non-stop Lego, because we've done this extensive partnership with Lego to pick up over 100 hours of content, which is really exciting. Again, this is another themed rail. And then we have preschool rails as well, where we've picked up several preschool titles, not in this rail, that will be featured in here. And this is another preschool rail as well, Animals and Friends. And yes, as I say, the images speak for itself. But I'm learning a lot around images and metadata and what goes with it.
Thumbnails. It's all about the thumbnails.
So under the live page button, at the moment, you can go and see CITV. I'm not sure if you're familiar with ITVX's fast channels when you go on there, but in the kids page, currently CITV sits there, but the two fast channels that we launch will sit under this page. And then CITV, when it actually is downsized, will be removed. And then we do have our A to Z of all our content as well. So, and then from 20th of July, this is what you can do. You can switch between profiles, really. So, I mean, I think it all speaks for itself in terms of images, content. We want to ramp up what we're doing. We're seeing a lot of viewer engagement, and we're really pleased with what we're doing.
Darren, I have a question.
Yes.
Why are you guys closing CITV?
It's actually, we're downsizing in terms of its presence on linear.
Yep.
So it will still remain a block on ITV2. It comes down to what the audience, how the audience is interacting with us, because I think we've been a bit behind, if I'm honest, in terms of modernizing the way we work. I think we're probably one of the few broadcasters that was still targeting sort of an age range that had migrated to online, to YouTube, to Fortnite, to Roblox. It's really difficult to target boys 6 to 12. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I wish we had done it sooner, but I'm pleased we're doing it now. Yes, it's not ideal. I get it, but if we pulled back and weren't investing in ITVX Kids and kids content, then I think it will be quite detrimental to everything we're doing. So that's the reason. is to broaden out what we're doing and offering to kids, and to go where kids are, really, which is online.
Yeah, true. Okay. So now we go to Laura from Art and Animation.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think it should play a sizzle straight away.
Yeah.
Eh? Oh, stop fooling around, Gromit.
Great. So at Aardman, we produce our own content, obviously, and distribute our own content. But we also distribute independent production companies' content as well. So in 2019, we started to sort of really ramp that up and use our expertise in this area. So all of the content that we distribute has to meet the values of Aardman, which is highly original, really high quality, always animated, and funny or entertaining. And we're a global distributor. In the most part, we distribute all rights, including AVOD and FAST. And I joined the team at Aardman last year, and at the start of this year started heading up the digital team. So within my remit, I look after digital ownership as well as AVOD and FAST. And our vision is to consistently reach and engage a global audience, increase brand fandom, watch time, and revenue. And so we do that in 4 ways, 4 sort of areas, if you like. So firstly, with YouTube. So my team look after YouTube monetization. And we have a really great partnership with YouTube. We see it as a real core platform for kids to discover brands, and then before being signposted off to maybe first window partners as well, or broadcast partners in the territory. And my team look after 25 channels, and this is them in the slide actually, holding the Diamond Award for 10 million subscribers on the Shaun the Sheep official channel, which we hit at the end of last year. So I've inherited a great team. It's their work, not mine. And then part of our strategy with YouTube is to continue growing the success that we've had already, but also by pivoting and using some of our stronger brands to sort of scaffold up some of the new IP that we distribute. So this year we launched the first of our hub channels on YouTube. So Aardman Presents Timmy and Friends is a preschool hub where parents will be the decision makers to putting on a preschool channel. The entry point will be Timmy, but then they'll be introduced to new shows, and so they really will see a trusted brand, and then be introduced to new shows like Very Small Creatures or the brilliant Paper Owls, Happy the Hoglet, and it's going really well so far. So we're really enthused by the results and looking to do more in that hub channel space. In addition, we also partner with AVOD and FAST platforms. So we use our data from knowing which markets are the biggest opportunity with regard to CPM and reach in the YouTube space, and then pivot that over to the AVOD and FAST platforms. So the US is clearly a huge market for that. And here's a selection of the brands that a selection of the channels and platforms that we do partner with. We try to increase our partnerships. That's one of my key parts of my remit, but also sort of sweat the content better on the platform. So improving metadata, improving imagery, so it makes the audience an easier decision to select that content. And as I say, our strategy is really focusing mostly on more on US, but also internationally as well. And it's really for our library catalogue content. Although that said, we are partnering with AVOD and FAST channels to launch exclusive first window content as well. I can't announce yet, but look out for that in a few months. And and we're also exploring our own fast branded channel as well, which I can come on to afterwards. Within this space as well, we see it really important to produce what we call digital first content. So Aardman have always been really successful in producing content which is around branded content, so leaning into like behind the craft and getting kids involved in recipes or model making. But we're also now putting resource and budget behind producing content for this space. So it's a bit more of a focus for this year. So as an example, Adventures of Arachnofly is up on the screen, and that's a spin-off show to Lloyd of the Flies, which is on ITVX. And our intent with that is it's a 16:4 series. It's the intent is to distribute that widely on digital platforms first, and then with broadcast partners as well. But the idea is to speak to audiences where they are, and Lloyd of the Flies is targeted to 6 to 12-year-olds, and so it's really speaking to audiences often when they're introduced to content on YouTube, and then signposting them over to ITVX in the UK or ABC in Australia, wherever our partners are. And so it's a real focus for us this year to do that. And then lastly, within this sort of area of focus is really working with our partners and our independent producer partners to help them understand how to package up content more effectively and to sweat that content in this space. So whether they can produce more digital first content, lean into the themes that work really well in this space as well. So yeah, a big remit.
Brilliant. Paul, would you like to introduce Cartoon?
Sure, thank you. So 2 weeks ago, the company I work for was called Genius Brands. Our chief executive decided to move from NASDAQ to the New York Stock Exchange. So we changed the company to Cartoon Studios. So let me play you. So, originals are very important because we have aspirations to be in every market in the world. So having the rights is absolutely crucial, and you can't just rely on acquisition. So that's why strategically that's a very important part. Let me just take you through a couple of slides and just explain what we're doing. And the first one is a map, and this is not quite as busy as Harry's slide, but it's still fairly busy. We started really in the US about 2 years ago, and we've got pretty much full distribution in the US. Two sort of strategies. One is the owned and operated app. By that I mean the app that we control, which is an AVOD and FAST app. So you go into the app free of charge, you download it, there's a whole load of content which is advertising supported, AVOD, and then there's a premium section which has got all of the first runs, the exclusives, all of the big catalogues, all the binging stuff, and also some metaversal content, including avatars, some 3D content, and other metaversal content. So that's behind a paywall. So that app is distributed throughout the US. And then we've got pretty much every platform. So we're on Pluto. With Pluto, you provide the content, they schedule it. Pluto's doing very well. Amazon Prime Video, Tubi. We're on Cox, Charter, Xfinity from Comcast, and so on. So in the US, and it is a very, very congested market, we've got full distribution, and you need to be everywhere. Your audience rating is increased the more platforms you're on. Exclusive doesn't really work in the US. You need to be absolutely ubiquitous. We have two brands, Cartoon Channel, which is targeting kids 6 to 12, and Amoeba, which we acquired. It was a Canadian business, and that's a preschool brand, and those are throughout the US and Canada. Now, we're now growing around the world, so The focus in the last few weeks, months, has been on Africa and Southeast Asia. Our next launch is in August in India with Power Kids launching on Jio. Jio's got the staggering number of 400 million paying customers. It's a telco. That's a big, big reach with a fast channel, with a kids cartoon channel, fast channel. And then the next launch is Astra in Malaysia, which is a pay TV platform. We have fast channels in Australia, in New Zealand, on Samsung TV Plus, in the Philippines on Tap Digital. That's a local Filipino one. In Germany on Waipu. And others too. So fast is a really important part for us. We've got two brands, a bit like Darren. There's Cartoon Channel, which is the multi content channel with a whole lot of different shows, both acquired and originals. And then we have our gaming channel, which is a safe gaming channel. It's basically shows about gaming, learning tips, learning how to do better, and it's kids watching other kids playing games. And the one that's really big, the biggest show, is Roblox. The show's called Roblox Rumble. We have kids on Zoom playing Roblox games, and there's a sort of leaderboard. They compete with each other, and then there's a kid at the end who's the winner. Two really nice things about it. One is kids love watching other kids playing games. They really do. I mean, I would never have believed it, but they do. But what's really nice is how these kids behave. You know, they're so sweet and so gentle to each other. And if you want an example of kids being really generous to each other, it's a great example. You know, they congratulate the winner, they're graceful losers, and somebody wins. And we're customizing that now and doing local versions. We've just finished a Malaysian version with Malaysian kids, and we make that in-house. So that's distribution. So our goal is to get into all the major markets. There's still more work to do, but we're doing reasonably well. And then, I mean, in terms of content, really four main strands. Obviously, acquisitions. We are the main shareholder in YFE. We own Frederator and the WOW network. So that gives us lots of content. We're making gaming originals. So in our studios in LA, we make original gaming content. And we do original animated content, as you saw. And that really is about leveraging that in any way it's going to get to the audience. And it's interesting, we talk about how everything is non-linear, but that's not actually quite true. It is true in Europe, it is true in the US, but you go to a country like Poland or other countries in Central Eastern Europe, you go to Asia, and you'll find there that 80% of kids viewing is still linear. It's not non-linear. Disney has decided to move out of linear, I think prematurely in some markets, and that's producing opportunity. So our view is we'll go on free TV, we'll go on pay TV, we'll do fast, we'll do AVOD, SVOD, our own app or third-party apps, whichever is the best way to reach kids. Because ultimately, it's about great content, great storytelling, and entertaining kids. But there's not one size fits all. The world is actually very complicated. Fast is fascinating because people talk about the death of linear, but actually fast is linear. Fast is another linear feed, but delivered in a different way, a digital route, via a connected TV device or via an app. And kids are watching fast. On our app, when you turn on the app, the first thing you see below all the rails is a fast channel. And I tell you what, it's the most viewed thing on the app, that fast channel. Kids go on there and they say to us anecdotally, you know what, I get home from school, I'm tired, I can't really work out what to watch, I put that on. And then I see a show I like, and then they'll go down to a rail and they'll watch multiple episodes. So my message really is multiple strategies, fast, VOD, SVOD, they're all out there. The critical thing is reach kids where kids are, and really the purpose is to make families and kids happy and entertain them, and that's what we're trying to do.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Paul. So now we, go to Suja from Otera.
Hello, everyone. Here we go.
Oh, that was.
That was to wake you up. I'm Shuja Farouk. I'm the Director of Business Development for Terra. We are a US company based in Paris. You can hear it in my voice. I'm going to start explaining to you what we do into that space. So we actually initiated 12 years ago Toon Goggles, which used to be at that time, beside YouTube, the other place where you could go and watch kids content fully free of charge, as it was purely AVOD. So we started doing AVOD kids monetization more than a decade ago. The application now, the service now happens to be live globally, pre-installed on every single smart TV brand around the world. Is also available as a fast channel in LATAM, in LATAM Spanish, in Portuguese in Brazil. It's live in the UK, in the US, in India, in the Middle East, and so on and so on. The service was meant to target preschool to up to, I would say, 8 to 9 years old kids. So above that, they tend to be more autonomous, and they don't follow specifically what parents control. After launching that service, what we decided to do was to provide our technology in white label for companies, distributor, broadcasters, or content owners who wanted to launch their own services, being an OTT application, being a fast channel or not. So as such, we are basically able to provide you with the technology that allow you to launch in 4 weeks your own application globally on smart TV, on Roku, mobile. We're able to distribute that application to you to different platforms and so on, and also help you to monetize that. I will come back to you in a few seconds. And of course, when this fast market started about, I would say, a bit more than 4 years ago in the US market, because we had the integration done with all the with the OEM, the TV manufacturers, we decided then to also start building fast channels. And as of today, we power a bit more than 100 applications globally, and we power a bit more than 1,000 fast channels globally as well. Not just for kids, of course, across all genre. But on the kids space, what allowed the fact that we happen to be COPPA compliant, and having such an experience of monetization, a lot of kids brands were trusting us and working with us to launch the fast channel. In result, Duck TV, we are powering the channel globally. We distribute and monetize that. Catch Up TV, who is owned by VOD 365, we are the fast channel partner now. We do hosting all the monetization globally. Raving Rabbits, which is an IP from Ubisoft, that is actually on a channel which will be launched by Animage, a French studio. And Smurf TV, of course, that we have launched globally as well in English and in Spanish. And all of these channels are available on smart TV brands like Samsung TV Plus, LG, Roku, and so on and so on. On the monetization aspect, one key differentiator that we have is that we don't just rely on programmatic advertising. We have a global ad sales team, which means that we go and do deals directly with brands. So, for example, we've done a lot of campaigns last year around Christmas and Halloween with Mattel, with Lego as well, with McDonald's, and so on, to specifically target, around that. We also do a lot of deals with car manufacturers, because they know that usually there's a parent around in the room when the kids are watching TV, and they want to have a car ad onto, like we've been doing a couple of deals with General Motors in Sewage and so on. What I also wanted to give you a glimpse on about, beside our capabilities, was to show you some sort of what's kind of CPMs, or like we call it eCPM, in sort of effective CPM, that are available when you blend programmatic plus direct campaign. So again, I'm not saying that these numbers are the average CPM that you see, because of course, if I take the US market, for example, when you consider the different genre and you are able to reach much higher CPMs in certain cases with pharmaceutical and political ads. But of course, so to the kid specifics, for services that have at least 100,000 endpoint requests and over 1,000 impressions, these are the numbers that we come across quite often. Which is interesting is that when you look at Europe, West Europe, I would say, in the case of France, Spain, those CPMs are not necessarily higher than what you see in LATAM, or even lower than what we see in Mexico. So it also means that you have, globally speaking, of course, the US, as Harry pointed out correctly, 80% of the advertising revenue on FAST currently and in the future is expected to be anyway coming out of the US. Afterwards, the other region that we see pretty much being dynamic is Latin America. And of course, Europe is driven by the UK as being the locomotive in that space, and Germany afterwards. So yeah, that's what we do and how we help kids companies reach more audience and make money in that space.
Brilliant. So now, we have a bit of a discussion and all, and I think this first question is to Darren, Laura, and Paul. Like, how do you define your position within the AVOD space and among all the competitions, like competitors, right? Like Roku, Pluto TV, Tubi, Kadoodle TV, and the multitude of YouTube channels.
I think we're bloody fantastic. Sorry. no. I mean, to be honest, based on your, going back to your initial presentation, it's just oversaturated in the US. There is a lot of choice, and I suppose kids are quite innovative and they will find it. But as a parent of a preschooler, how do you navigate all of that? I think going back to specifically us at ITVX, what we're trying to do is get ahead of the game and to make sure we have a strong presence in that space. Generally, ITV, outside of the social media platforms, we are the biggest AVOD service in the UK, and so we do have a quite strong presence. I appreciate Pluto, Roku, etc., are doing quite well, but in terms of their size in the advertising space in the UK, we are quite a bit ahead. It doesn't mean they can't catch up to us. We're not arrogant enough to think that we can just stay still and nothing will change. But we need to be innovative, as I said, go where kids are, and move with the times. So to your point, we are, in terms of where we are against those platforms, we're in a good position with a recognizable brand, and we just look to grow from there before all of those other platforms.
Yeah, so I have a question. Like, between all the different platforms like Roku, Pluto, Tubi, Kadoodle, do you acquire content on an exclusive basis? So then it's the only destination for kids to watch a certain IP in the UK, or do you do more non-exclusive deals?
It's not. It depends on the IP. It really does depend on it. We are free. We in the UK, we serve just the UK audience. Our remit is to UK kids. We want to bring them all the best shows. In January, we looked at a lot of the content that was on the SVOD platforms, and we made myself and a small team, we made a decision to bring a lot of the content behind paywalls to UK homes. Obviously, there's a lot of cost of living crisis in the UK, and we've talked about accessibility for sort of poorer homes, etc. We factor a lot of this in. So that influenced our decision. Ideally, we do take exclusivity, but we are pragmatic, and we do know the value of having the content everywhere as well, and making sure kids can access it. It just depends on the cost. Okay. Which some people might not want to hear in here, but it does.
It's all about the money. Laura, what about?
So I think there's so many AVOD and FAST channels and platforms now, and as you see from the slides, it was really busy. And it presents loads of opportunity, but as an independent distributor, that also presents challenges in terms of, how many, as a sales liaison, how many platforms you're speaking to, and also impacts, with the teams as well. So it is a challenge, but what's great about Aardman is that we do pivot and move resource around to be able to serve those platforms really easily, and that is a focus for us. I think majority of the library catalogue that we distribute, we do in a non-exclusive basis. We want it to be in many different platforms. Earlier on today in the Ampere analysis session, she really spoke to and showed a lot of data which just proves that having content on multiple platforms is just so important to the overall success of a show. And you just can't have it on one show anymore. After about 6 months, it's completely like an exclusive show loses its what's the word? I'm sorry.
Longevity?
It sort of reaches its peak, and so from then on you need it on multiple platforms. And so it's really hard as a distributor as well to kind of unpick legacy deals where it might have been exclusive, and now that there's more platforms to distribute on, to make sure that you can be on multiple platforms. But I think the whole industry is understanding that you know, if we work together to try to relax some of the rights obligations, then so that we can get a show everywhere, then that will help everyone. So that's an important focus for us as well.
Cool. Paul?
Yeah, I think Darren said a lot of it. Brand is very important. You have to actually have a brand that means something and be clear what it means. Particularly if you're acquiring content from the market and everyone has the same show, how do you differentiate yourself? If you've got the same content everywhere, you have to have something that differentiates you. So the brand is part of it. On the exclusive point, our strategy is to start exclusive and then go non-exclusive. If you go exclusive, there's two reasons to do that. One, you've got something to market. You've got something to actually say, come to us. Here's a reason to come to us. But, you know, Laura's completely right. You have to then go non-exclusive. Otherwise, you're not maximizing the value of that content. And in fact, we'll use YouTube to build reach. I mean, we won't put full episodes on YouTube. We'll put clips on YouTube and use YouTube to build reach, because YouTube is, you know, a big, big tool, and kids watch it. But you know, we want to monetize on other platforms, on our own platforms. And then I think the last part of that is things that no one else does. So I mean, for example, you know, that's why we have our originals, that's why we have our gaming content, and that's why we do things like the Kidiverse content, the metaversal content, which again differentiates you from the other people out there. In the US, it's fierce. There's so many players, and you have to have a message. You've got to have something to say to people to differentiate yourself. Otherwise, you're just a commodity.
Brilliant. So this second question is to Laura and Suja. So, you know, how do you guys approach partnerships, collaboration with, you know, content creators, production studios, or other industry players to strengthen your AVOD platform or content offering? I think that would be interesting to understand, because both of you do have partnerships with other third-party brands and all that. So how do you go about doing it?
In terms of how we distribute that content?
Yeah.
So we treat our independent production companies' content the same as we would ours. So we really look at the strategy as we would our own, and they're our babies as well, and treat them with, you know, want to maximise the opportunity for those shows. So it's really important for us to look at a whole windowing strategy. So I'm sort of speaking to the US specifically, because that's where AVOD and FAST are biggest. But we look to window that content, you know, to put Paul's point, it's really important to do that, to give opportunity. So depending on the content, we might be launching a new show and specifically have it on one platform to start with, but then window it out and distribute it wider. We always want to try to create branded content around the main show, so that if the rights are restricted, that we still have content that has non-exclusive rights that we can saturate in other places to just elevate the whole show. So that's really important to us. And we're always looking at the data to just make sure that what we're doing is sensible and works to the best ability, really.
Brilliant. Suja, maybe you can talk a bit more about the partnership you have with Smurf TV.
Yeah, no, I mean, Smurf is one, but I will also quickly jump on another point, which is to differentiate as a Toon Goggles as a platform where onboarding content. So we are agnostic to when we license content from right holders as to which content we give prominence and visibility to, because the fact that we're live globally in every market, not every brand works the same way in every country from one market to another. So we look at the data, understanding being the fact of service being live for more than 10 years. We know which type of content works better than other. Let's say in Brazil would not necessarily be the same as in the US or in the UK. So we follow that trend to understand which content should get more prominence in different markets. So we curate the content accordingly. Then in regards to the partnership, one things we've been trying into, and again following the data, which was to see the fact that our service was available on every single platform globally. We noticed that we're getting content consumption coming off from markets when sometimes are neglected by the other platform, let's say the Middle East or Southeast Asia. And in that regards, what we've done, we did a partnership, for example, with Huawei Video. So on Huawei Video, the only kids, the kids section is actually managed entirely by us, by Otera. The other thing that we did was, for example, we were the first kids service to launch on a feature phones, actually with Jio in India. So again, reaching out, platforms or areas that are neglected by or forgotten somehow by other guys and other big players, and try to differentiate it by that marriage.
Brilliant. So it seems that we have about like 5-6 more minutes. So I'm gonna hopefully try to squeeze 2 questions, and I think this is through all of you. I think it's about FAST because we've been touching a lot on AVOD. So how is the wave of FAST channels in the US actually influencing the TV industry in general? Maybe Paul, do you want to do a quick one?
Well, I mean, the interesting thing, I think, the big difference is the development of the advertising market, which is so much more advanced in the US. We sell both direct and programmatic, and we have some very big brands on there, including Hollywood studios and toy companies and so on. There's a well-developed ad market in the US. Other parts of the world are very difficult. I mean, to be honest, the revenue we're making in Australia and New Zealand is very, very small at the moment, but we regard it as a placeholder. We regard it as channels getting good engagement, but we can't monetize it yet. I think some genres are ahead of kids in terms of monetization on FAST, but I think kids will come. Europe, I reckon, is probably, what, a year or 2 years behind the US, maybe, you think? Something
5
like
years,
that?
I reckon.
A good 2.
2 years, yeah. So, I mean, we're launching FAST in Europe, knowing that we're not going to make much money on it, or maybe even lose money on it, but hopefully we'll make money in the future. So, whilst the US is a ferocious market, it is the market you can monetize the best.
Laura, do you want something to add on that?
No, I think Paul covered
Paul could. Okay, I mean, it's no, it's rather interesting because the thing is, like, for us outside the US, it's really hard to get to monetize the inventory, right? So you have to find agencies that's out there that's willing to pick up the whole entire inventory.
It's also a question of educating the advertising industry. I mean, for example, one quick thing, if I may say, we have noticed when we look at the top 10 of our markets for Toon Goggles, we were seeing sometimes Saudi Arabia or the UAE or even Iran or Turkey popping up in there for various reasons. But then what we've been doing is going into those countries and explaining it to the advertising agencies that what CTV is, what advertising digital represent, what has been happening in Europe and the US. So, to prepare that stuff and start get those market prep for advertising when they're going to be ready.
Can I make one more point? And that is, we use Atera in America and we use Maggie in Asia. Sorry about that. But the back end is amazing. I mean, the data that comes out of the Atera back end is incredible. You can see, what the engagements are, how long kids are watching, what they're watching. You can track shows. I mean, for example, when the Super Mario Brothers movie came out, our Super Mario figures just went absolutely through the roof. They're now going back down again. So you can see exactly when to add new shows, when to retire shows, and how to drive it. I mean, the old days of running a TV channel where, you're using Barb or something, and it was largely guesswork, and it was always, after the event data. This is just amazing. I'm not selling for him, but it is amazing what you can do, and that data.
I didn't pay him anything, I have
end,
to precise.
It is incredible.
Is this some bromance
and I would say
right now?
that don't be shy about looking at the data, because my God, it's really amazing.
Laura, I have a question. I mean, are you guys going to launch your own FAST channels, or?
So we're definitely looking at it. So I think one of the challenges with launching a FAST channel is getting the audience to choose you over a competitor channel. And the kids want a brand they recognise, and a variety of content. Parents want a brand they trust if they're putting the channel on. Which I think at Aardman we have, and from speaking with lots of the leading platforms around different parts of the world, they're really keen for us to launch, which is really exciting, and there's a lot of strength and integrity in the brand of Aardman. We're just working out the commercials and making sure that actually, as a lean studio is complex to launch, and we need to make sure that the commercial terms work for us as well. So, but it's definitely an opportunity we're looking at. So.
Oh, awesome. So. Last question to Darren. One last question. Will you accept third-party FAST channels on your ITVX? Because I'm interested to know. And I'm sure they all are.
No, to be honest.
Oh, that was quick.
Yeah, just to say, I mean, it sounds all amazing, but I'm starting to think, do we actually have enough kids in the UK for all of these fast channels? It's just amazing. And just actually see, in terms of the costings for the CPM for the UK is quite incredible. But yes, it just shows you the competition we have for eyeballs. But for the time being, I mean, we have done Studio Canal Presents outside the kids space. But for the time being, we're not, I think we're just looking to grow our platform first before we start thinking about
other third-party
Yeah.
fast channels. Okay.
Makes sense.
So I think that was rather quick. We'll throw it to the floor to see whether you have any questions that you want to ask the panelists. Okay. So maybe.
Hi, I'm Claire from Mathematics. I wanted to reconcile how you sell programmatic advertising on kids' channel and safe.
So actually, you are able to black out genres and industries of advertising. You can even, I mean, at least on our system, if, for example, let's say if you didn't want to collaborate with, imagine with British Airways for whatever reason, okay? You can mark up and you can black them out on the system. So that way we're able to black out industries. So of course, alcohol, tobacco, and other stuff. We can black out gambling and so on and everything. So we can really, you can control really much even in that regards, the maximum to that extent. What kind of which industry advertising or which brand advertising will become. We can even do one thing. For example, imagine if you're advertising on Samsung TV Plus, okay, your content with advertising there, and you want to make sure there is no Apple advertising coming up. That can be controlled too.
Next question, please. The guy's ready. Yeah. No. Yeah, the guy with the white T-shirt.
Dennis, a question about scheduling a fast channel. What level of care goes into it compared to, for example, are you working with the CITV linear schedulers to create a schedule that works through the day in the way that they would have been doing in the past?
Yeah, we do have a dedicated scheduler for the fast channels. Just one point of difference compared to a lot of fast channels. I'm not too clued up on them, so I can't speak on them. But there is a sort of a human interaction when it comes to both our kids fast channels and just generally our kids content creation on ITVX. So it's not sort of a computer. We put everything in a computer and just put it out there. So to your point, we do have schedulers working on our fast channels.
Okay, I think that's the cue for us to end the session. So I have to do an announcement. That's the last of today's session here in the showroom. Oh, this is the wrong one, no? A note for tomorrow: if you are a person of color working in kids, there's a meeting up tomorrow. A meetup tomorrow at 9 a.m. Grab a coffee or tea at the Phoenix Bar downstairs at the Hub. Please make sure you make your way up to City Hall for the creative keynote with Shannon Jackson at 6:30. And just to note, it's a different door than this evening compared to last evening. Thank you very much for attending.